This is My Beautiful Home, and we're right here on 1590 WAKR, News Talk Sports with Kathryn DeLong, and I'm Andy January from January Paint and Wallpaper. And in a few minutes, we'll be talking again with Mary Beth Breckenridge. She is the home writer for the Akron Beacon Journal. But right now, we're going to talk with Tim Eberhardt. He is owner of the House of Eberhardt Funeral Home over on West Turkeyfoot Lake Road.
And you know, we were just talking to Steve Robbins, the Get It Done guy, about time management and how we all share this thing about time. We have only so much, to get everything done that we want to get done, and we need to make priorities and everything. Well, as humans, we share something else, don't we, Tim? And that is that eventually we totally run out of time. And what do we do about that? How do we start planning for it and taking hold of that conversation so it doesn't leave our loved ones, completely stressed out when that time comes. So anyway, can you help us with that?
Absolutely, Kathryn. Thank you very much. Thank you for having me on the show as well. It kind of does boil down to time sometimes. A lot of times we were talking, people don't talk about funerals. They certainly don't want to talk about their own funeral or funerals of their loved ones if they don't need to. And unfortunately, they normally talk about it when the time comes at need. And that's why we have talked about prearrangement a lot. We talk to our client families about pre-planning funerals. It just starts the dialogue a little bit, even within their own family, what maybe wishes of their mother and father might be. Sometimes the kids seem actually surprised when they talk to their parents what they expect out of a funeral or what they think their funeral is going to be like. So it's always worked out very it's just good to have the thoughts out from the families ahead of time. It makes decision-making process a lot easier when it's not needed to be done at the time when somebody does pass away.
Tim, you made a really good point before the show, and I always thought when you prearranged a funeral that you prepaid, but that's not necessarily the case.
No. At our funeral home, I strongly encourage, I often talk to people and says, just get some thoughts written down. We can record what your thoughts are. We don't have to go as far as prepaying a funeral. There's people that just don't care for that idea, but that should not stop people from thinking about their funeral and just putting a file together that we could show family down the road is a huge benefit for that family.
Well, there's a Catholic hymn. I'm Catholic, and they don't sing it much in church. And I know the priest wouldn't like it, but it's called "Bloom, Bloom, Bloom Where You're Planted," and I want them to sing that,
I like that
at my funeral because, and it's one of those crazy things that, I've always told jokes and carried on, and I want a little bit of that at my funeral if they have any money left.
Well, I like the song "The Parting Glass." It's an old Irish thing. I have not one drop of Irish blood in me, but I love the song, and I think that would be a very rousing, exuberant.
Right, but
song.
I think it's important because, and even talk to your loved ones about what you'd like in the obituary, because I have some definite ideas what I'd like, and I have my oldest relative is my mom. She's 93, and we've probably passed the time because she's got a little bit of dementia. But there'd be some point in time she'd probably like me to talk about her Slovenian background. So it's really a time. There's never too early to start a conversation on it.
And we talked before the show. We really got into quite a discussion, as Mary Beth pointed out. It's really our responsibility, our personal responsibility to do this.
It is. It's if you really think about it, it's pretty. It could almost be termed selfish not to maybe let somebody know, just like you would let somebody know where important documents are, because they're going to need those. But if you have notes about an obituary, or like you say, you like a particular song, or the idea of, you want to go back to a church for a funeral service. If the kids might not know that, they don't, and you have never talked about it, it's something that they're going to have to come up with that day, and sometimes it's within a matter of a few hours that they're planning a funeral, and so much of it can be done ahead of time and at a more calm time. And if the person, you're talking actually to them, they can certainly just tell for themselves.
And when it's not needed immediately, it becomes more abstract.
Absolutely.
Like, well, what would you like? Not that you'll ever need it, but what would you like?
And I just wanted to interject, too, that you said that there's really two big choices. It's the traditional earth burial and then cremation, but there's a whole lot of cremation options besides that people don't think of.
There are. The cremation is just a cremation could be considered an alternative to earth burial. It's still final disposition, but the cremation process could certainly be done after a traditional funeral.
Right.
A lot of people, I think, just because of certain circumstances, they would consider, and they know the term direct cremation or immediate cremation, but there's a whole host of things that could be done even with church involvement, with calling hours, and then a cremation as an alternative just to the earth burial. So that is why the cremation is interesting, and more people understand or actually get knowledge on it. I think that they can fulfill, if they like the idea of cremation, but they also want some of the thoughts with the traditional
send-off.
Absolutely.
Right.
And you can incorporate both of them.
And you can bury the cremains someplace.
Absolutely.
Because there's a lot of genealogy people out there.
Sure.
And it's always nice to go down to my dad's hometown in Kentucky and walk through the January section and see where, well, it's not the January, February section. But and a friend of mine, my grandmother's side was Irish, and a buddy of mine who's passed, we're convinced we're related because they all came from the same part of Ireland. Sure. But walk around there and see why we all are named what we're named, because we came from grandparents, aunts, and uncles, and all that stuff. And I think it's important to get buried, at least have a headstone or a marker somewhere.
We do. Certain religions, absolutely, they allow the cremation, or they will condone cremation, but they do kind of draw the line about scattering cremains. And that we try to let families know, think, I know you're doing this act today, but think maybe 30 or 40 years, grandkids, this, if they want one specific place to go, to memorialize somebody, that's where burying the cremains seemed to be kind of popular.
So I had a plan if I was cremated. Okay. And that was...
Do we want to hear this?
Well, I don't know. And see, I have two daughters. And I was going to request, and I had thought about this, I have it written in stone, being cremated, and my remains put in two of those blue Maxwell House coffee containers, the ones that you get your coffee grounds in, topped off with play sand, and then some duct tape put around the lid, and then thrown in the trunk of each of their cars. And then if they're ever stuck in the snow, they can get the old man out and get them out of one last jam.
Oh, my goodness.
That's a good idea. Yeah. I like that.
I shouldn't say that because we want to be serious about this, but it is a very serious thing, and I think it's. But anyway, go ahead.
How do people reach you? Can they just call you for a consultation?
Yes, we talk to. Obviously, people call the funeral home quite often. We do prearrangements, not quite every day, but certainly every week. People come in, or they call ahead of time, and they just want information. There's a lot of information. Certainly a lot of information when people come to calling hours. They always have questions about types of arrangements or caskets or vaults. There's a lot of talk about the cemeteries today and what they're allowing, as far as double-depth burials, or in the Veterans Cemetery in Rittman. We're very fortunate to have it's called the Ohio Western Reserve National Cemetery. It's absolutely a huge benefit to veterans and their families. So that's also something that's talked about quite a bit.
That's where my dad is.
Oh, it's there. Okay. Yes. It's beautiful. It's and it's just a tremendous benefit with the plot, opening and closing, the marker, the vault, all with no charge to the veteran and their spouse.
It was quite moving. It was beautiful.
Absolutely.
It was a cold but sunny January day, and it was my half sister had arranged. She had been in the National Guard, and she arranged for a gun salute, and it was really cool.
Yeah. When I was in the reserves, I did that. I was I put my uniform on and went around and did that at different funeral homes.
Very, very nice. So anyway, we'll have your contact information on mybeautifulhomeshow.com. Really appreciate you being on the show. And this is just one of those topics that we need to address, and it's sometimes you kind of tiptoe toward it, but it's great to do it.
And we'd like to have you back. And
please come back.
And just one quick question, won't take a long answer. You don't mind somebody that's interested to call you up, make an appointment, and just come out and sit down and talk for a while?
We covered that.
I know, but I just want to reconnect on that.
Absolutely.
Yes. Okay.
No,
good.
that's when I feel I'm helping out the most. Is just
she's
to answer
awful
questions.
hard on me. But anyway, all right,
and rightly so.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you, Tim.
Absolutely.
Mary Beth, what else do you have coming up that you're excited about in the Beacon?
Next weekend I have a story on a Uniontown woman named Sue Spargo, who is an internationally known quilt designer and teacher. And who knew right here in Uniontown that we had such a talent? There's a new book out featuring her work. She's was born in Africa, lived in South Africa as a child, and much of that imagery informs her work now. It's folk art. It's exuberant and joyful and elaborately embroidered. Beautiful, beautiful stuff.
Wow. We'd love to have her on the show sometime.
Yes,
That'd
you
be
should.
great.
Absolutely.
It is always so great to have you on our show.
Thank you.
Because you just always you always roll with everything, and you always meet people too.
And we're so organized.
We meet people because of you, and you meet people because
That's
of
right.
us. So
It's a
it's
big
really
community.
fun.
Yeah,
really,
thank you.
really fun. So any last things? We have a couple minutes.
Oh,
so
yes, we do.
Any last things you want to talk about here? And not in parting words. Not as in that.
Tim's job.
Oh, so Sandy has a question.
I don't know if you guys can hear, but are there any, if you can translate,
Yes.
What is the most unusual request you've ever had? Or some of the
Most unusual request that you've had, Tim?
For a funeral, the most unusual. I don't know, certainly, I think more people joke about, putting things into the casket with people. Certainly, we've done. We put golf clubs in. Sometimes a favorite putter, or guy said, "Can we put roses in with the casket?" I said, "Absolutely." Well, it was a bottle of 4 roses.
That's cute. I like that.
But no, what's really very nifty is one of a family we knew real well. This gentleman was into his racing, and we brought his race car to the funeral home during calling hours and had it there.
Wow.
So that was kind of neat because he was so much into that car. He was a huge family person as well, but he loved his racing.
I like that.
And we brought that. And then we've had, of course, being in the Portage Lakes, a lot of Lakers, as we call ourselves. We have outboard motors of when they were kids. They have these little... They look like toys, but they're vintage outboard motors. We've actually had that during calling hours. Fishing rods, lures, all that. So,
that's really
wonderful.
nice.
yeah.
So it's okay to bring anything.
Almost anything.
Almost
Anything.
The horse
Probably
is
within reason.
right. The horse has to stay
Yeah,
outside.
Right. Yeah, I was just going to say,
Well,
no live animals.
when you mentioned the race car, we had done a story at Cleveland Clinic about a supporter who had racehorses, and he recently passed on. And I was thinking, I wonder if they had a racehorse at it.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
I was at a
Absolutely.
few calling hours with the dog was there. The
Oh, wow.
woman's
Yeah.
dog.
Yeah.
I just want to give a little background. Kathryn actually works at the Cleveland Clinic, so that's why she knows about that stuff. We
Right.
don't mention it very often,
No.
but she let that cat out of the bag today again. So,
There you go.
all right, we're just about out of time.
Yes. Well, this has been great. Thank you both for
You're
being
welcome.
on.
Absolutely.
We had such a great group again.
Okay. Well, anyway, so we're going to
Okay,
be here
Andy?
next week. This is Andy January, myself, Kathryn DeLong, and all the gang at My Beautiful Home. Thanks for listening. Wait a minute.
I want to say go Bucks.
Go Bucks, right? We gotta squeeze that in. Okay, and join us next Saturday, again next Saturday at 11 here on 1590 WAKR News